All right, folks, today we're going to go over techniques to create a few different parts here in Fusion 360. We're going to start off here with part number 1, where we're going to learn the loft technique. Loft is up here under Create. So one of the things to note here in Fusion 360 that your tools are not just limited to what you can see here in your ribbon bar, but each of these that has a little arrow underneath of it gives you more tools and more techniques underneath of the main bar. So you've got the tools you can see and more tools underneath. So under Create, you have your main Create Sketch, Extrude, Revolve. And if you go under Create, you've also got Sweep, Loft, and a bunch of other things under here to mess around with. Sweep and Loft will allow you to do more advanced techniques and do some really cool parts that you couldn't make without these techniques. Quickly, a sweep is a technique where you make a shape, a circle, square, triangle, or whatever, and then you make a path. This is a single line where the path starts at the center of the shape and is on a plane that is perpendicular to the plane that the original shape was on. I started with a plane like this, drew a shape, have a plane now it's perpendicular to that original plane, and I draw a path for that shape to go, and then the shape I made originally follows that path. This is how I would make something like a pipe or a straw or the downspout for a house or something like that. Anything that has to be a shape that follows a path where the shape's consistent, I could do something like this. And it allows me to create more interesting shapes that I couldn't make otherwise. A loft, which we're going to do right now, is two shapes on two separate planes that are separated by some distance. And then the engine in Fusion 360 creates the material that would be between them somehow. And you can make any two shapes. It can be a circle to a square like you see here. It could be a star to a triangle. It could be any two shapes. If you look at number 1, we're going to make the shape that is on top, the T, and then the shape that's in the bottom, which is a bigger, thicker T shape, and we're going to make the whole thing in one move. Those of you who actually were able to make this shape, you probably did it in at least 2, if not 16 moves for some of you. So we're going to do this in just one move by doing a loft from the one to the other. Let's go ahead and take a look at what it takes to make a loft first, then we'll go ahead and make this shape. So make a sketch, and I'm going to go ahead and make a triangle. I'm going to go over here and say 3, and we're going to go triangle. And now to do an offset work plane, this is a work plane that is at a distance from a plane that already exists. All I do is go to Construct here, and again, Construct has this drop down for lots of different ways to make planes, axes, and points. But I'm just going to go ahead and click on the button. For making a work plane, I'm going to click on the plane that I'm already using and drag. Make a plane that's parallel to the plane I already have, but at some distance. Enter. And make a plane, a sketch on that plane. And now we'll go ahead and make a do an ellipse. Same center point. We'll go like that. And now Fusion will create the material that would be between them. It's asking me over here for my loft panel to choose profiles. Profile 1 and profile 2. Done. And it automatically creates the material that would be between those two profiles. Any two shapes. Okay, let's actually make the shape that we have to make for this project here. So go to this plane, and I'm going to go ahead and look at my shape here, and I can see that I've got a line that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/4. I'm going to show you my technique here. I don't bother with the math because it's wasting my time. I'm just going to actually type in here 6/4, and it does that work for me automatically. And I'm going to come down for these pieces here, and they are 3/4 and 3/4, 1/2 inch in. Whoa. I didn't straighten that out, you see? It came off on an angle. I don't feel like redrawing it, so I can come in here and say make it horizontal or vertical. And it locks it in place. Makes it a little faster for me. Now I'll make sure that one's straight, 0.5, enter. And then each of these arms coming down here are 1 inch. And finish my sketch. That's the first T. I'm going to offset work plane from here. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/4. I know in my head that's 1 1/4, but I don't feel like typing that, and I don't feel like thinking about it. It's faster for me to do this if I just type in 5/4 and boom. Fusion 360 will do that work for me. And so now I'm going to flip here so I can be thinking about this the right way. And make my sketch here. And I'm going to use my projection. If I go under Create, I have Project Include. Project takes things that already exist and brings them into the project. There are a couple of parts of this that I'm going to use. I want to reuse this back line and these two sidelines to kind of give me some parts to work off of. And I'm going to come in here, and I know these are actually longer in this one. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/4. I'm going to go 5/4. And then 5/4. And the reason I projected those two sidelines was because it lets me kind of lock the ones I'm making in so that they are, I know they're nice and straight, and I don't have to think about it as I'm working. I can bring these over here. Same distance as before. And you notice it kind of snaps in place. I don't have to think about how far I'm drawing that. It just kind of snaps for me. So I'll let it snap. And then my arms that come out this way are 1 inch again. They're going to stick out farther because I came out farther with these ones. 1 inch. Connect. Finish. And I have the two profiles. I have the one on top and the one on bottom. I'm going to hit Create, Loft, one profile, other profile, finish, and it's done. There's part number 1, using a loft. I wanted to show you that because we're going to use a loft for number 7 then as well. So hit save. I'm going to call that one part 1. Now, design, and 5 was the next one. Start here. So for 5, I'm going to start off with a rectangle. I know you guys don't like rectangles. How many of you use lines for everything? Yeah, you drive me nuts. Use the tools that help you do things faster. So I'm going to do a rectangle from here, and I can see that my side walls are 3/4 tall. Hit Tab. My Tab key will take me between the two dimensions of my rectangle. So now on the bottom, I can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/4. So I'm going to go 6/4. Tab back, hit Enter, I have a rectangle. Now I got to do the peak for the roof. This can be a bit of a pain if you're doing it any other way. So I'm going to make a reference point for myself. I'm going to get a line, and I'm going to snap it to the center here. Notice as I come along the bottom line, it snaps to the center. Do you see it gives you a little reference point there and tells me it's in the center? Snap it to the center and bring it straight up. And I can count along the center there, and I can see that that center point of the roof, the peak of the roof, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/4 in the bottom line. So I'm going to go 5/4 up. And I have a line there as a reference point. And I can just grab these and connect them to my peak. That's how I make my peak roof. Finish. and I'll extrude all of these this way, and it is 2 inches or -2, and I get this. And we're going to go ahead and okay. So now I got this part here already done in one shot. I don't have to cut anything away. I don't have to think about any dimensions. It all is done there. And now I have to do the piece that sticks out of the side here. I'm going to go ahead and get that offset work plane again. Another reason why I showed you that before. I can click on construct, click on this side, and pull an offset work plane off. I can see that that is 1/2 inch off of the side of the building. So I'm going to go 0.5, and I have a work plane to work on here. I'm going to make a sketch on there, and I'm going to make a reference line, center it again here because it's right in the middle, up to the peak of that little roof. I have to count 1, 2, 3, 4.5. So it's 4.5 fourths, and that's a dumb number, but it works, and Fusion 360 can use it, so I'm going to use it. 4.5 fourths up. So now, once I have that line as a reference, I can use that for everything else because it helps me to lay out my pieces of this building, which are otherwise a little hard to do if you don't have to do measurements from the sides and everything. I can work from the center point. I'm going to come off the center point to the side here. I'm going to do that 1/2 inch. And I'm going to come off from to the other side here, 1/2 inch, because it's 1 inch the whole way. And I'm going to come up, and it is 1, 2, 3/4 again. And then I can come up my 3/4 again. Connect to the roof, and back down. And now I have my profile. I'm going to extrude. Now the question is, how do I extrude? A few ways you can do this, and it really depends on what your end goal is. I can just drag it until it goes all the way in, and I can change it to not cut. Why is it? Oh, here I scroll down to join, have it join in. Just drag it in until it's good. And that'll sometimes work okay. But it'll give you some weird results if you try to make a shell out of this, which is what you would sometimes do with something like this. You would want to shell it out and make it an empty hole. So you can make 3D print it or make a toy out of it or something. So there are other ways to do this. I just want to show you another tool in here as well. Instead of going extent and doing distance, we can go to to object. And that'll make it go to something you click on. If I click on this, it stops. Not what I'm going for. So if I click on this, sometimes it causes me issues. So you have to kind of try to select everything. You know, I love it when it works in my practice and then not when I'm demonstrating to students. There we go. That's what I had to do. Chain faces. Perfect. And then it comes up and it chains it. The nice thing is what this is actually doing, when I do this correctly, I hit this chain faces here, is it's actually wrapping it around the faces. It's not extending it inside of the part like it was before when I dragged the whole thing inside. It's extending it inside. What it's doing when I hit this chain faces in the to object is it wraps it around the outside. What that allows me to do now is if I come underneath and I go here to click shell, I click the bottom and let's type in 125. You see, I can make this hollow, and because it's wrapped around, it makes it hollow. Whereas before, if I had done the pull through, I'd have this whole thing sticking on into the inside. I have walls here sticking into the inside, because this would be a separate piece shoved into the other piece. By wrapping it around, it gives me a little more flexibility. For this part, we don't care a lot, because we're not actually doing this, but there will be times where it will matter that you can wrap it around the other part. Now you know how to do that. Next part, we're looking at number 7. We're going to use a loft. You can only do this part with a loft. Only way to complete this part. Number 7, there's really 2 ways to do it. You can create the 2 shapes, the front and back shape, as a whole, and loft between them. With 1 move, you're done. Other way to do it is make a block. How many of you like making blocks and then cutting things away from it? If that's your style, you can make a block, a rectangular block, and then make the shape of the triangle on the front and the triangle on the back, and do a loft cut and cut away from it. I am the kind of person who likes to make everything all at once if possible. I'm going to show you that technique, but the loft cut works just as well if that's your preferred way of doing things. So let's go here, and we're going to make this shape. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a rectangle, and my rectangle is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/4 high by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, and then I have to create some lines in here. To make the V work well, again, I'm going to make a reference line. I'm going to come in here and snap to the middle and draw up 1/4. Why is that not working? Oh, rectangle. I want a line. There we go. Now I can come in here and I can create a V that connects to it, and then measure from here to there. And that's, again, 1/4. Measure to the point, 1/4, and I get my V. I like to use the trim command here to get rid of things then that I don't need. I can trim, bloop, and it gets rid of that top line. And now I have my first shape, finished sketch. I then need to do an offset work plane. I'm going to grab from here, go back, and the depth there is 1, 2, 3, 4/4, or 1 inch. So I'm going to go -1 inch. And I make another sketch back here. Now when I'm making this, I don't like the fact that I can see my other sketch. Sometimes I don't want to see the other sketch. It gets in my way. But don't want to see it, I can turn it off. Over here in my browser, I can come here to Sketches, expand the panel, and find Sketch 1, and turn it off. Turn the eye off for when I don't want to see it. Don't forget to turn it back on again later if you do want to see it. But for now, as I'm drawing, I don't really want to see it. I'm going to start by drawing my rectangle so I can make sure it's in the same position. And then I'll turn my sketch off so that I make sure everything's lined up. Okay, now I want to put another reference line here in the center. And now this is the real tricky part. How far up is this point for that smaller triangle in the back? You have to do some brain twisting here. You're looking at the sketch references, the page that I gave you. You have to look at the isometric drawing and kind of imagine what the bottom and the back would look like if they were drawn. Kind of draw a line with your mind. If you had it actually printed out, you could draw a line with your pencil on it. Draw a line with your mind, the bottom, back, to where the line from that triangle would come down, and measure up from there. Let me bring this over and show you what this looks like actually. So you can see it in the screen here. There we go. All right, so we're looking at 7 here. What we need to do is find out where this point is here, reference to the bottom of the back. Okay, so I need to draw a line essentially from here back until it meets this point here, which is where it would come down from this V here. So you have to imagine this line coming from this point here, back to here, and then up to here. And I have to count from this point here, which is, this is the back. How do I know it's the back? Well, it would meet this point here. But also, I can extend a line over, notice, and hit this corner here, right? Do you see that? So I'm kind of imagining if you've got a pencil and you drew this out on paper, you could actually sketch little lines here to help you with this. Bring this back to here. I'm going to count up till I hit that little V. 1, 2, 3/4 to that V. Okay, so 3/4 to the V. Let's do that. 3/4 up, right there. Okay, now my edges are, see, I said it was 1/4 from here, 1/4 there, 1/4 there. For here, it's actually 1, 2, 3/4 to the edge. 1, 2, 3/4. So I'm going to again draw. And you notice I'm not measuring anything right now. I'm just going to draw, connect, draw, connect, and then I'm measuring afterwards from the side to the point. You notice I can click on anything. I can click on a side, an edge, intersection, a point, and I can measure them. So I'm going to do 3/4, and then from here over 3/4, and again I'm going to trim this excess out from the middle and finish my sketch. I want to turn my sketch one back on, and now I got both sketches for my loft. I'm going to go under Create, select Loft, and pick my profiles. Profile 1, Profile 2, done. Questions about how this part was made? Seems a lot easier when Mr. King does it, doesn't it? You guys can do it too. You have to figure out the technique. You got it. Okay. Oh, don't need it caps. All right, now, next one is part 8. Let's take a look here at part 8, this one here. This one's actually a lot easier than it looks like it should be. And they give you a hint for that. Let me show you here. Do you see? They gave you this, the outline here, these construction lines, this box that it's in, the glass box. And then they gave you here some outline lines here for where parts of this were gone away. You see this here? This and this and this. This part looks more complicated than it actually is. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a big stunted triangle, essentially. We're going to draw this shape here first. This, 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 and this. And extrude it to that depth. And then we're going to chop the corner off. That's all there is to it. We'll start with that. So I'm going to bring this over here so I can actually see it while I draw. That's a tip from me to you. Always try to make sure you can see what you're doing while you're drawing. So we're going to make a new sketch here. And we're going to draw lines over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/4, and up the back. I'm not going to assume you guys know anything here. You notice when I draw a line, I always kind of exaggerate what I'm doing here. I come way out, and then I come around. And you notice I get little hints to what's going on. Do you see that little green thing down in the corner? What's that telling me? It's telling me it's the right angle. Not only is it telling me it's the right angle, it's telling me it's kind of snapped and locked to be a right angle. That's what I want. So I did that intentionally. I wasn't being goofy. I was doing this intentionally. What's that? What do I see now? What green hint do I see now? What's below my line? Ladder. Parallel symbol. It's snapped and locked to be parallel. I come around like this intentionally so I can see that pop up and I can feel it. With my mouse, I can feel it snap in place there. It kind of jumps for me a little bit. I want it to be parallel. I want it to be perpendicular. I want that 90 degrees so I get that to pop up there. All right. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/4 today. All right. Now, diagonals. When you aren't given angles, it can be difficult to draw a diagonal. The best way to draw a diagonal with any technical drawing typically is to connect endpoint to endpoint. to connect the endpoint to endpoint here, I'm going to actually come up here and draw this piece first. And that's 2/4 or half an inch. And then I'm going to connect from here to here. And I get that shape. And now I just need to extrude this. I need to extrude it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8/4, 8/4, 2 inches. And there we go. There's the primary shape. To cut the corner off, the easiest way to do it is to come to the bottom. Make a sketch here on the bottom. This is the corner I'm cutting off right here. It's important that when you're working with these things, you maintain your 3D visual sensibilities, your ability to know where you are in 3D space and what you're looking at, where you were, where you've gone, what part you're working on. I was like this. I've now moved down here on the bottom. This is still the corner I'm working on, so I'm going to cut this corner off. To do that, I need to do some measurements. I'm going to first just kind of draw the line and then measure it. I'm going to measure from here to this point, and that is 3/4. And then measure from here to here, also 3/4. Is that enough? Just the one line? Can I finish sketch and extrude now? Merklinger says no. But look, I hover over it and I see a shape. Is that enough? Do we not know, or are we too shy to answer? I have not fully enclosed the shape. Yes, Fusion can see that what I'm trying to do. But I have not drawn a fully enclosed shape yet, and it's not going to let me extrude that. I have to finish the shape. Now, fully enclosed shape, I'm going to extrude it. Now, I'm not going to drag it or anything. I just want to do this by clicking options over on my options bar, because I want to show you some interesting options over here. I want to change my operation from new body to cut, and my extent from distance to all. Watch. All right, it needs me to change one more thing here. Objects to cut. I did drag it a little bit. And now I can change extent to all. There we go. And see, what all does is it will always cut all the way through whatever object you're cutting. If I were to come back and change this object in some way and change its shape, this cut would still cut through the whole thing, no matter what change I made to it. No matter what different shape it was or size it was, this cut would always cut through the whole thing because distance is all. Does that make sense? It's a nice little tool to use if I know I want my cut to go through the whole thing always. Okay? And there we go. Chopped it off. Done. All right, next one on my list is 11. 11. Now, I've made the statement that none of these on this entire sheet take more than 3 moves, 3 creations, 3 extrudes or whatever to make. This one's no different. I'm going to show you what to do to make this one. There are lots of different ways you can make this one. Let's take a look at it real quick here. This is the one I'm working on here, number 11. Lots of different ways you can make this one. I prefer to make this outline. I'm going to show you. I often will prefer to do it this way. Make as much of the shape as I can and extrude it in one shot, and then make modifications from there. So I'm actually going to make this shape here, up and around, like this, with the hole, and extrude it in one shot. And then we'll make the slot and the rounded edge and cut them into it. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. So, I'm going to come over here and draw a line up. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4/4 or 1 inch. Come over this way, and I'm going to draw my screen here. There, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11/4. And I didn't make that straight, so let's make it straight. Hello. What the heck? Delete you. 11/4. There we go. And now we go up. From there, 1/2 inch. And we go over this way. 5, 6, 7/4. And we come up this way. 1, 2, 2/4, 1/2 inch. All right, now I need to do my arc. I'm going to go create arc. I'm going to do a center point arc. 3-point arc looks like this. I connect the 2 endpoints and come up. And notice, it'll try to snap in to make it tangent and perfect. And that'll work just fine. See? Another way to do it is a center point arc, where I create a point in the middle. I'm going to make a line here. And I do center point arc at the center point and come around like this and make a center point arc. The only reason I'm doing a center point arc is because I know I want something else at that same center point. What else do I want at that same center point? I want a hole there. I'm going to put a circle at the hole, the center, and that one's diameter is 2/4 or 1/2 inch. Now I got something in my way here, so I'm going to take my trim tool just to make this a little easier and get rid of that. So I got that hole there. And now I've got my final shape. Finish sketch. Extrude that and this to 1, 2, 3, 4/4 or 1 inch. There we go. Primary shape done. I'm going to come and put my sketch on top here. I have 2 things to make. One is an arc here, and one is a slot here. Let's make a slot first. Notice under create, one of my options is a slot. And I'm going to do a center to center slot, because that is what I've got available to me in my picture, is information about my center. So it kind of snaps to things. You see it's kind of snapped to my center here. So I'm going to draw my 2 center points. I know my distance between them is 1, 2, 3/4. So I'm going to do 3/4. And my thickness is 2/4 or 1/2 inch. And then I have to measure my distance from center point to edge. I know that that is also 1/2 inch. And that places it in the right location. Now, my arc, I'm going to do a 3-point arc. I know that one point is actually the same point here. This edge starts the same place as this center point does. If I'm looking at my picture, I can see. Let's go ahead and take a look at it if you guys aren't watching along here. Whoa. Okay. You see here that this line kind of extends through the center point and hits the edge of my arc here. Do you see that? The edge of my arc is the same location there. So I'm going to get a line. I'm going to make it a construction line now by clicking this button. And I'm going to extend it from there to there, and all the way through. And that way, when I create my 3-point arc, I can create it from project here. Project this. Now, 3-point arc. From there to there to there. Now, I can't just extrude because I have to have something fully enclosed. My goal is to cut out this stuff. I have to create something else out here. You're gonna love this. I'm just gonna go do, 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 do. It doesn't matter what that shape is, as long as it will cut away the stuff I want to cut away. See? It could be anything. As long as it's something, and it will cut away what I want to cut away. Let's finish my sketch. And do an extrude. I'm going to select this and this. And we're going to change it to cut. And we're going to cut this away. And we're going to say extent to all. Okay. And it got mad at me. Why did I get mad at me? I didn't like that I did two things at once here. So I'm going to make my sketch visible again. And I'm going to do this one here separately. I know why. I didn't select enough of what my sketch was. Distance all. Now it's happy. Turn my sketch off. And there's my object. Questions about number 11? All that happened with that last one there was I didn't do enough clicking. I clicked part of my sketch, but not the whole sketch. I didn't click those two pieces of my rounded edge here. So it didn't grab the whole thing. There we are. That's the last one, number 11. Just in time for the period to be over. So next week, you guys can go ahead and wrap up some of these ones and do a little more. Come across some more things that you're not quite sure of. I'm hoping that last week, for the most part, we'll be wrapping up many of these, and we'll have to do a couple more days after that to finish up the pieces, and then we should be done for the most part. Not requiring this to be due next Friday, because next Friday is going to be one more week of this, and then we'll move on from there. Thank you very much.